Good afternoon. On behalf of all the City Club board members, I'd like to welcome you to our May City Club Forum, actually June City Club Forum. First we want to thank our sponsors, and it's only through the generosity of the sponsors who assist us that we're able to continue to have City Club and to keep the meals at a reasonable rate and to afford using this facility. And we also want to thank this facility for having us come in here. And this is an excellent turnout today. Actually, we have a lot of people who come in the last, a lot of walk-ins today, which we strongly encourage. So, please, anytime that you want to come to City Club, it really does help to sign up ahead of time, but we're always happy to have you. We want to thank Missoula Community Access Television. If you miss a program and you'd like to see a rerun of it, or just want to go back a few months and catch a program you didn't see, you can always go to Missoula Community Access TV, and they have reruns of all of our programs. I think most of you have been here before, so our format is really very simple. We will introduce our speaker, and then after that, we go to what we call table talk. And at table talk, first would like each of you to introduce yourself. It's a way for you to get to know your neighbors, a way to help form the more camaraderie in the community, and then discuss the program today. Ask questions, give your opinion of what was said, and then we'd like each table to formulate at least one question, and then nominate someone to stand up and ask that question of the speaker. Lair Bram will be our speaker person, and he will walk around, and when he comes to your table, have that person stand up and ask the question. And again, when you ask questions, what we really encourage you to do is ask a question, not make a speech. So I am very proud today to introduce you to our program. It's Fairgrounds Master Plan, Beginning the Vision to Life, presented today by Emily Bentley, the Director of the Fairgrounds Development. And Emily has been the director of Missoula County Fairgrounds since January of this year. She's working to re-energize the 46-acre fairgrounds in the heart of Midtown. Her professional background is in land use planning and infrastructure development, as well as in public relations and political campaigns. Emily has, when I went to see her background of things that she's done in the past, she's been a very busy person in Missoula. She currently serves on the Missoula City Council representing Ward 3. She's done that since 2014. She was the multi-state campaign manager for a nonprofit organization, Compassion and Choices, for 4 years. She served on the Board of Commissioners for the Missoula Housing Authority, and she was a communications coordinator for WGM Group in Missoula for 2.5 years. So she comes here well qualified to speak to us today. We're very happy to have her. Thank you.
Good morning, or maybe it's the afternoon by now. Can you guys hear me if I'm this far away from the mic? Okay, I have a pretty loud voice, so. Thanks for the kind introduction, and thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come down and learn about the fairgrounds. And thanks also to the City Club and the City Club sponsors for doing the important work of bringing folks together to discuss relevant and interesting topics in a polite and civil venue. I'm here to discuss redevelopment of the Missoula County Fairgrounds, and which was bought by the county commissioners in 1913 for $16,000. Which would maybe get us one of those pens now. At the time, it was surrounded by farmland, and as Missoula grew, it became centrally located with easy access and a variety of uses that serve both a rural and urban demographic. How did I do? Did it switch? No. There we go. Okay, so the fairgrounds now plays an important role in the community as a focal point and destination with a mission to promote agriculture, education, culture, recreation, community connection, and to reflect the beauty and history of Western Montana. After serving the community for over a century, this public asset is in need of reinvestment in order to preserve our historic ties to agriculture, protect and amplify its incredibly unique identity, create new open space and trail connections, and improve land values and desirability of a changing Midtown. So as part of our reinvestment, we're doing a little bit of reinventing. Before I go too far down the redevelopment rabbit hole, I want to share with you some changes to look for this summer. Maybe by now you've heard that we're going free admission, which we believe will really enrich the experience for fairgoers. We've learned from other successful models that zero-cost admission can be sustainable and potentially even raise more money. And most importantly, an accessible fare means that more Missoulians can come together and enjoy the connection that is so important to our mission and is such a cherished Missoula value. Cultivating a welcoming atmosphere and increasing folks' sense of ownership and nostalgia for the fairgrounds. Oops. Sorry about that. All right. Okay, well, I guess I'll just go on. I'll just say that this open access to the fairgrounds is especially relevant with redevelopment on the horizon. I'm banking that in the short term, this sense of ownership leads to more off-season rentals and events, and in the long term, it really helps attract and maintain the investments in fairgrounds redevelopment. The computer's thinking. I confused it. Okay, well, as my colleague Tom, who's here, likes to say, the fair isn't an event, it's a place. And look at these young ladies enjoying, relaxing, people watching, enjoying a long, lazy August day. Is this what summer is about or what? One simple and yet noticeable change you'll see this year is more shaded green space. We have a fantastic grounds crew who's been working so hard to irrigate and maintain our grounds, and it's now greener than ever before. We've also have a very energized and creative event staff who've brought in new acts like magic show, acrobats, stilt walkers, drone flying, laser tag, extreme bull riding, all for your pleasure. So some other things you can look for at the fair this year are an upgraded sound and stage and lighting at our new music venue, which is in the paddock area near the arena, and it will also serve as a second beer garden. Speaking of which, we're moving away from the beer gardens having a bar vibe and towards more of a brewery vibe, and by that I mean smoking will be strictly prohibited, and people of all ages will be allowed into the beer gardens, and so that responsible adults can enjoy a beer and fair food with their family on the grass in the shade, which is all most of us really want from the fair, really. And the feedback we've gotten from the community about these changes has been overwhelmingly positive. We feel confident that we'll reach more people and have a greater impact than ever before. So here's the plan that was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners in 2016, and I'll talk about the specific details and how we plan to phase and pay for the projects in a few moments. But first, there's an important question that I need to answer. The question is why? Why is this old, tatty, debated place worth our collective heartache and precious resources? A stakeholder that I work with closely said to me last week that the fairground seems to be the place where all the fringe groups go. And I have to say, I take that as a compliment. I think what she was referring to was our extraordinarily distinct identity. Here's the Dog Show, one of our favorite and most novel user groups. And believe it or not, I'll be the first to admit that we haven't done a great job getting this message out there, but there are over 500 events at the fairgrounds throughout the year that bring folks in our community together. And that doesn't include ice sports or the fair itself. Look at the joy and camaraderie on these strong, healthy women's faces with the commercial building in the backdrop. It's so unique and interesting. It's so Missoula. And just so you know, starting this summer, on most Tuesdays and Wednesdays in June and July, the Missoula Skate Club will be hosting disco roller skating for the general public in the outdoor pavilion. So you should come down. So let's talk about that unique identity and the diversity of the fairgrounds. Last winter, when I was applying for this job, people would ask me, "Are you sure?" And I think they were questioning my decision-making abilities. Ginny, are you here? No, I don't know. Well, you see, for the same reason that I fought for refugees to be able to come to Missoula, I'm fighting for the fairgrounds because I know that diversity challenges the human mind to be creative. Working with people who are different from us, other, is exercise for our brains. And after the election, when polarization in this country was at its height, my instinct was to get out of my liberal bubble and spend more time who think differently from me, to look for common ground and to start the healing process, to find and lift up the common values that everyone in our community shares. And I apologize if you've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again this morning, and I'll keep on saying it. The Missoula County Fairgrounds is the physical space in our community that embodies the diversity we find in Missoula County itself. And I've heard people say that the huge variety of stakeholders at the fairgrounds is a burden, or at least a challenge. And maybe in the past it has been. But I believe this tapestry makes the fairgrounds exceptional and more important now than ever before. The fairgrounds is a bridge, a connection between the urban and the rural, and tradition and innovation, the neighborhoods and Midtown, the past and the future. Where else can you find ice skaters, rodeo queens, vintage markets, roller girls, demolition derby, joggers, golfers, weddings, and 4-H? This space encourages Missoula residents to reach outside of their comfort zones and interact and solve problems with people who are different from them, kind of like City Club. And redeveloping the fairgrounds is part of that journey. It is a local opportunity to demonstrate to our children how responsible adults find solutions through hard work, creativity, and cooperation. So I like to say, it's a new day at the fairgrounds. This site has been serving Missoula for over a century, and I can tell you from my short time out there that this community is ready and excited to see this project come to fruition. They want to engage as careful and responsible stewards of this unique and exceptional place that has been entrusted into our care. One of the most exciting things we're going to be doing with redevelopment is creating a space that transports visitors and connects them to our agricultural history. We are renovating 5 historic buildings, seen in yellow: the commercial building, culinary building, fair office, floriculture building, and home arts buildings. These buildings will be restored to match the original 1915 commercial building. And we're doing a technical analysis on the fairgrounds photography collection to discover what the original colors and textures were of those buildings. And you can see here we only have black and white, but apparently there's magic technology that can look at that. So the renovations of the buildings themselves will generally include new siding, roofing, foundations, bathrooms, windows, and fire suppression. And they will be accessible and usable to the public. But the fairgrounds won't only focus on the past, the fairgrounds will also focus on the future, including the future of local agriculture and healthy working landscapes. And here it is. There's the future, unless you're a vegetarian. But 4-H and FFA kids showing their local livestock at the fair, which this year for the first time will also feature local heritage breeds, which I can't take credit for. The 4-H council decided to do that, and I think it's great. So I just want to take a second to flip back and forth between these slides. Do you see? Not much has changed. Okay, back to the future. So, city folk like me may not know that our proposed livestock center that we're building, and I'll show you on the map in a second, will fill an unhealthy gap in our community assets by ensuring biosecurity when these young farmers show and judge their livestock. Currently, other than the fair, when they have access to the rinks, 4-H and FFA participants have to transport their animals to working farms for educational programming, which increases the risk of spreading disease and is not a biosecurity best practice. So an outbreak of animal disease in Missoula could, really seriously damage the domestic livestock industry here and have economic consequences. So the new livestock center will be a controlled environment with heightened hygiene restrictions. It's been designed so that it can be enlarged as needs grow and can also be temporarily converted into an indoor arena for equestrian events. Okay, so here are the new buildings in blue. Here's the livestock center. And We're also going to be building a new learning center you can see that right here. The new learning center will include innovative educational space where family and consumer science and horticulture and plant clinic and 4-H can provide programming to county residents. The Weed District will gain much needed office space. Currently they're renting for a lot of money. And empower local land managers through cooperative landowner and watershed groups to regulate invasive species and improve plant communities. Did I get that right, Jerry? The Learning Center will include a demonstration kitchen and wet lab, as well as 3.5-acre experimental garden that includes a greenhouse and hoop house to emphasize native plants, pollinizers, and local foods. And you'll also see on the top left that we're planning to build more ice at the fairgrounds. Did you know that last year that the Glacier Ice Rink had more than 21,000 visitors? That's a lot. This winter. So we've partnered with Missoula Youth Hockey Association, the City of Missoula, Missoula Figure Skating Club, and Missoula Curling Club to procure a market analysis on expanding ice capacity in the Missoula area. It's looking like the recommendation will be to build 3 traditional size hockey rinks at the fairgrounds and potentially 4 sheets of curling at the fairgrounds or potentially elsewhere in the community. So we'll be working with the ice rink architect to determine the lifespan of the existing rinks and make phasing decisions. And the capital campaign for that project will launch next winter. The other new buildings you'll see are a new maintenance facility, which we'll be renting space to the City of Missoula for and sharing with Jerry from the Weed District, and a new rodeo arena, which has seating for 3,000 spectators, restrooms, and concessions, and will include space for staging and penning and feeding livestock. All right, so another reason why we need to redevelop the fairgrounds is to help encourage redevelopment in Midtown. This slide came from the recently adopted Brook Street Corridor Plan. And that plan calls for more placemaking and cultural amenities, better pedestrian and bike connections to the neighborhoods, higher density and mixed-use land development, and better transit and parking opportunities. And I do mean all of which, can be catalyzed through redevelopment at the fairgrounds. For example, the fairgrounds is 46 acres, and currently only 5 of those acres, the carnival grounds and South Avenue, are utilized as open space. The plan calls for the rodeo arena to be moved to the south, which opens up an additional 11.8 acres that will be designated as open space. And combined with the new 3.5 acres educational gardens at the Learning Center, the fairgrounds will have 19 acres of open space, 15 of them new. In addition to open space, the plan calls for 6,000 feet of bike and pedestrian trails throughout the fairgrounds that will connect Midtown with the rest of Central Park and with the neighborhoods. We know that Missoulians treasure and revere their open space. Look at that, it's so beautiful. Research has shown that access to open space is a critical factor in positive health outcomes, and both the city and the county are taking concerted steps to ensure that access is more equitable. We know that in Midtown, there's a dearth of open space and connectivity. Nobody can argue with that. Housing density will only work as a land use if there is shared green space within walking distance. Designing open space at the fairgrounds is a really exciting challenge. The vision is for the space to be distinct from every other place in Missoula, and maybe even in the country, and that it will look and feel rural and bucolic, but be situated and integrate with the urban core. It will be a lush, oasis where visitors can slow down and enjoy the views, 360-degree views of the mountain, and connect to their agricultural heritage in a very unique way. Kind of like when you're at Fort Missoula Museum and you're standing there, you feel like you've been transported someplace else. That's what we're going to do at the fairgrounds. And the landscape itself is a key element of the historic interpretation, telling the story of our mountain farming community. Okay, so moving on. What else does redevelopment entail? I know that utilities aren't very sexy, but we rely on them, and we desperately need sewer and water at the fairgrounds, like yesterday. Ask the fire chief. Our founders built most of the fairgrounds on a volunteer handshake deal, and they did a pretty good job, but they didn't keep great records. 16 of the fairgrounds toilets have unknown sewage disposal. For real. We close them during the fair, just so you know. We assume that these on-site systems still have the original installation, but we don't really know what that was or where they are. Fire suppression is always a major concern during the fair and events since we don't have adequate means for sprinklers and fire hydrants. We have to have a lot of people on fire watch, and the fire department would really, really like us to deal with that. Okay, so now that you know what we plan to do and why we plan to do it, I'm going to tell you how and when. So this is phase 1 of construction, which could begin in 2018. It includes utility main extensions, renovations to the 5 historic buildings, a new maintenance shop, the learning center, perimeter landscaping and fencing, entrance enhancements, improvements to the existing carnival grounds, 10 acres of open space, 3,000 feet of trails, and dirt work in the back to prepare for the new livestock center and rodeo arena. Since so much of phase 1 really is upkeep to what the county already has, we're proposing to use the vetted courthouse model, which prioritizes the fairgrounds during the county budgeting process and leverages mills dedicated to the fairgrounds. This would contribute $14 million of $20 million towards phase 1. This money would be leveraged to raise additional public and private funds and close the $6 million gap for phase 1, which I feel confident we can do. This approach allows the county to reduce the impacts on the public, employees and taxpayers by phasing implementation and financing, and allowing the fairgrounds to maintain operations during construction. Okay, phase 2. You'll see in phase 2, all 19 acres of open space are constructed, along with all 6,000 feet of trails, and the first of 3 new ice rinks will break ground. We're working with 4-H to raise funds to build the first part of the new livestock center, and you can help us by, you'll see opportunities to contribute at the fair this year. I hope you do. And the new rodeo arena will also come in phase 2. Most of the funding for this phase will need to be raised privately, although the county is hoping to provide a match if we can raise enough money in phase 1 to roll over some of the mills allocated to the fairgrounds to help these stakeholders build their projects. Here's phase 3, full build out. It's much farther out. I have not identified a funding source for it yet, or even programmed all of the buildings. It includes the new exhibit center, the full build out of ice, and the full build out of the livestock center. So where are we now? The planning process is complete, thank goodness, and we are moving into design with construction starting next year. The task at hand now is to ensure that the plan is implemented with high-quality, consistent site design. As I've shown you, the plan sets broad parameters for historic building preservation, new buildings, and 19 acres of open space. Design that we're doing right now will develop detail around specific elements and result in a graphic and written narrative that ensures the overall continuity and identity of the fairgrounds. We have to make certain that products are selected, open space is landscaped, trails are constructed, and buildings are situated in a way that meets the mission of the fairgrounds and the needs of stakeholders and the needs of the adjacent neighborhoods. The outcome will help residents visualize the future of the fairgrounds and ensure that the site is developed with a distinct character that reflects our agricultural heritage and is welcoming to those in the urban core. And so for clarification, design standards are intended to provide assurance that the fairgrounds develops with the envisioned character through integrated site and building design. And then standards are more precise with picking actual products. Here you see the example of lighting, thanks to Jeremy and Kate from WGM Group. The guidelines, you can see the guidelines talk about pedestrian scale lighting on trails, right? A framework, versus maybe a different lighting somewhere else, which is lighting for security, or maybe there's, different kinds of lighting in different places. But here we have pedestrian scale lighting provided along multi-use trails. And then the standards, which are the next phase, pick the light pole detail. And that's the process we're engaging in right now. So with the guidelines and standards, here's another graphic from the wonderful Kate from WGM Group. With the guidelines and standards, when it comes to time to design the individual products, there's a surety that with so many varying user groups, the entire 46 acres are integrated and attractive. And in August, this August during the Western Montana Fair. There'll be an interactive booth that I hope that you can stop by at. I'll be there. And you can help us pick these standards. So please come to the fair. You don't have to pay to get in. And then stop by my booth and weigh in on design. And so I'm going to leave you with this slide because I have an assignment for you. Growing up, Charlotte's Web was my very favorite book and the first chapter book I ever read. And I read it many, many, many times. And since then, I've always associated the fair with Wilbur and Fern and Charlotte. And so my assignment to you, as you discuss with your table, and I will be calling on you when you ask your questions, I want you to share your favorite memory or sensation at the fair growing up. And when you ask your question, I'm going to make you pick one of the stories from your table to share. So that's all I have for you today, and I look forward to the questions.
And now we go to our table talk portion. So again, introduce each other to yourselves, discuss the program, and we'll give you about 10 minutes or so, and then formulate a question. Okay, what we'd like to do now is if you have a question, just raise your hand and Larry will come over to the mic.
Okay,
Who's first?
Russ raised his hand first.
I'd like to start off by the consensus at our table was how glad we all are that you are now leading this effort after many years of consternation.
Thank you very much.
Now, I do have a question, but you said you wanted a fair experience
Yes.
or something?
Yes, keep it clean.
Well, this is a winner one.
Okay.
Bill.
Yes, my name's Bill Lawrence. I moved here from Colorado. I attended the Colorado State Fair as a youngster. I grew up in Pueblo County, where the state fair is held. My admonition to you is you need to be really careful on who you book for entertainment. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I had to bribe my 2 brothers, bought them tickets so that we could see Gene Autry. Gene Autry came riding in on his horse. Gene was so drunk he fell off the horse and had to be dragged out of the arena.
So Gene Autry's off the list.
Okay. You hear that, Tom?
With a space this large, with new construction, with remodeling and everything, I'm wondering if there's been any consideration for utilizing all of these facilities, all the land for energy generation. And not only just for the fair itself, for the grounds themselves, but also as a revenue generating opportunity.
Yeah, one thing we've definitely kicked tires on, and it's still on the table, is doing a solar farm on top of the livestock center, which is a huge building, 120 square feet. And so, yeah, that's one idea. But I'd love to hear, it sounds like you have some ideas, so if you want, thousands, 120,000 square feet. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but the follow-up is, right now Northwestern is in the process of generating some really great test things with Missoula Public Schools. And I think some of the things I'm seeing there could be incorporated into this at the early age, which would be just phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge with the challenge with that is that the way we're doing it is we're kind of paying as we go with, we're using, we're not doing a geo bond to pay for phase 1. And so that upfront cost, we have to find a way to find the funds for that upfront cost. I mean, I know that it would pay for itself. It's just a matter of finding that capital early. So if you know, yeah, okay. Sounds like you have it. Yeah, 10 million, yeah.
Okay, raise a hand. Anybody? Oh, we have up front.
Hi, my name is Dave Peppinger. We were at our table, we were talking about the numbers that you had. Mm-hmm. We were talking about the taxation and, it looked like there was $20 million that was mostly taken care of, and then there was another $6 million, is that about right?
The gap.
Okay. And then later on, it looked like about $17.5 million
For
another
phase
project?
2, yeah.
So my question is, with the table, we look at the number of projects that Missoula's got going on and the taxation and the bond issues, and where do you project that $17.5 million to be paid for, and where's the rest of it being paid for? So,
Well, the phase 2 is being raised privately, working with the stakeholder groups. So we're going to be doing capital campaign for phase 2. With private. I mean, the truth is, though, no matter how we fund it, it's coming from the community, and whether it's private or public dollars. And so I think the community is ready and excited about this project. And it's not the full build out is, we're talking 10 years out. So.
What about your story?
Yeah.
my story?
You guys forgot.
Am I supposed to tell the story?
No, you don't have to.
We were traumatized by
Anybody got a story?
Yeah.
I was gleeful and pleased to hear there won't be a fence, Emily, because I've torn so many pairs of pants hopping over that damn fence over the years.
Well, I didn't say there wasn't going to be any fence. I just said there wasn't going to be a chain link fence. We are going to be
Talk to the planners, huh?
looking at the perimeter of the fairgrounds and figuring out what exactly the need is for fencing, which is way more controversial than you might imagine.
So about 4 years ago, my son and I decided to go on the Star Trooper ride, which looked pretty easy. And because it was level, just going around level. So we get on it, and suddenly it starts to tilt and tilt and tilt. And we're up in the trees going round and round and round. And then it stops. He's like, oh, I'm glad it's over. I was like, no, actually, it's just that I go in the opposite direction. We got off the ride and immediately just sat down at the closest bench and just breathed deeply for about 20 minutes. And it was a very memorable moment at the fair.
Good. I'm glad you had that memorable moment with your son at the fair.
Hi, I'm Dave Westfall. To what degree, this is our question, to what degree does this redevelopment plan ensure that agriculture continues to be represented as an integral part of our economy and our culture in Missoula and Montana, and not just with the fair itself, but during the rest of the year, and that it isn't overshadowed by all of these other, we think, very important things, but how do we ensure that agriculture continues to be represented?
Great question. Do you have a story? Maybe for after I answer? I think actually with the new plan, agriculture is more represented than it is now. The Livestock Center is going, 4-H will have a home of their own for the first time. They have been intricately involved with the fair since this site was built in 1913. 4-H will be housed at the Learning Center, and they will have their programming with the animals at the Livestock Center. And we will be building a new rodeo arena. So actually, we are doing a lot more with agriculture than has ever been done before by the county at the site. Story?
No, we don't have a story.
That's okay. Any more questions? Oh, nice.
Hi, I'm Mark. No, I don't have a story. I can't share my fair story. It's not appropriate for the public. At one time, there was talk of structured parking on one portion of the property in a collaboration with some of the businesses along South Avenue. Is that still in the works or discussions?
Yes, we currently have a partnership with Allegiance. They rent parking space from us so that they didn't have to build parking on their site across the street. We are looking and working with the parking district to talk about building structured parking on South Avenue, potentially even on Russell Street too. We have to run the numbers and make sure there would be enough revenue. But yes, that is definitely still on the table.
Who's next? Am I next? Oh, there's a hand. All right. Get that arm up. There you go.
Hi, Emily. I'm Joni Painter. We didn't talk about this at our table, but just so you know, that assignment you gave us was wonderful. We are a table of fair eaters, fair going on rides. Eat, go on rides, eat, go on rides. Eat, go on rides. And apparently we're more fun than Disneyland. So,
Nice.
Awesome fair. My question is about the workforce, the companies, the contractors
Yes.
that are going to be involved in all this. And, as local people here, I want to know if there's a plan to ensure that it's local workers that do the work here, or if it's just going to be the lowest bid thing, or what kind of assurances, community people, that it's the people in our community here are going to actually do the physical labor of these projects and then also benefit from that in terms of a workforce?
Sure, great question. I think with a project this complicated, I mean, the next step that we're going to take is get a contract manager at risk on board. And I think with a project that's this complicated and has this many phases, we definitely have to have somebody who is from Montana, if not Missoula, doing that work, because it's not all going to happen at once. It's not going to be the kind of project where you can bring in your whole crew and do everything. It's going to take a long time to do projects that shouldn't necessarily take that long, but because we have to run a fair every year and stop and go and have lots of events, we definitely need somebody who's local and scrappy and can do that work. One of the challenges that the community is facing right now is the enormous construction costs things are just coming in so high. And one of the reasons the numbers are coming in so high is there's a labor shortage in Missoula. And so what's happening is on some of these projects is they're having to bring in out-of-state electricians because there's no electricians in Missoula. So we are really hoping, obviously we would prefer to use local contractors and local subs because it costs less, you know. It costs a lot to bring in an electrician from wherever. So, and the College of Technology too is, gearing up, and I think it's really shed a lot of stigma that maybe it had in the past, and hopefully they'll really start turning out some local workforce for us too, because these costs are outrageous right now. Good question. Any more stories besides fair and carnivals? Yes.
I have a story from Miles City, where I grew up. Our fair was very integral in our community, and our lives were just focused around it. And we used the fairgrounds for many different things. And I really like the idea that you are making this very community-friendly and more open, because if I have relatives or there's tourism or whatever coming into Missoula, what a neat place to be able to bring these people there and go to this park or show them some of the agriculture that we have built up, in Missoula. And I think that's a huge draw for tourism and for our community, especially where it's so very centrally located. But I have one cute story about the Tilt-A-Whirl.
Okay.
And I had one of the Grizzly basketball gals who was quite well built, and we were on the Tilt-A-Whirl together, and we spun and spun and spun and spun. And the guy really liked this gal that was with me. And we had short shorts on at the time, this was a long time ago. And so he gave us 3 rides at once, and nobody got off.
Oh my gosh.
We were just spinning nonstop for 3 full rides. When it stopped, we finally all staggered. There were all these other Tilt-A-Whirl people too. I'm sure they never rode again. But, we couldn't even find the stairs. They had to literally help us off of the Tilt-A-Whirl. And some people just fell down right on that little, trail around, because we couldn't even see what was up or down. And I still love the Tilt-A-Whirl, but that was quite an experience. So,
well, thanks for sharing that story. And you make a really good point about tourism and bringing people in. Matt over at the Fort Missoula and I have been talking about doing some co-marketing and really talking about how the fairgrounds and Fort Missoula are the bookends of Midtown. And if you are, when we're built out, and if you're coming to Missoula as a visitor, and you're interested in history, downtown, Fort Missoula, and the Fairgrounds are 3 places you got to go. And so we're going to be working together in the future to really market that and to really show that history. So.
Hi, my name is Faith Marshall. I'll be an 8th grader at Hellgate Middle School next year. And at our table, we talked about funding. And so we talked about like private sponsors for corporations. Have you thought about the idea of businesses sponsoring a building, like a single business?
Yes, that's a great question. Thanks. It was Faith? Thanks. That's a great question. Yes, we are thinking about that. We are going to be rolling out our capital campaign next year after we have a little bit more to sell the public. One of the things that we're sort of missing, and you maybe noticed was missing from the presentation today, was there's no pictures of what it's going to look like. And so that's what we're doing now in the design process. But yeah, that's a great idea. And I got to say, with the free admission, our sponsorship levels have gone way, way up. I mean, we had a goal to double our sponsorships, and we're getting pretty close. We have $70,000 in cash sponsorships already for the fair this year, and over $50,000 in kind in media, free media. So we are business. I mean, the community is taking notice and is interested. Good question.
Well, I have a story. My name is Chris Badgley, and one of my first jobs was at the fair, and I was 12 or 13. And I'm hoping this job doesn't exist anymore because
never know.
I had to stand in the men's bathroom next to the beer garden and monitor toilet paper use. And needless to say, it was not a pleasant job.
Yeah.
Well paid, right?
We contract that out now.
Can anyone top that?
I met some.
Somebody else? You're pointing at Jim? Jim, you got a question? Then Jim's pointing at you.
Do you have a question, Larry?
Oh, do I have a question? I don't think so, really. You filled in all the gaps for me. No, I have some fairground stories, and I didn't. Somebody mentioned better than Disneyland. I sold popcorn at Disneyland, so be careful with that.
I did meet someone, or actually attend a wedding last summer from a couple who fell in love and met and fell in love at the fair.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories like that.
I came here 15 years ago, and the discussion was about the fairgrounds, and things were, where's the racetrack? And my family fortune came from...
Don't say the R word.
I know. Came from a bookie in the family, and I inherited the money. Thank you, Grandma Priss. But so I was in favor of horse racing. I never went to one. I wasn't allowed to. But I'm sorry about the R word. I didn't know that was.
That's okay.
That's offensive. So somebody got something inoffensive?
It's not offensive.
Okay. Sometimes known as Bert, sometimes known as Tur.
Yeah, one of those two. Yeah, this is just a short story. When I was a teenager, I worked at the fair. You could go in as they were setting up and get a job and make 50 cents an hour or whatever it was. My job was to help build the Mad Mouse. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mad Mouse. Okay. That was the first part of it. The second part of it was I was the first person to ride the Mad Mouse.
Oh, gosh.
And the way the first person rides the Mad Mouse is to be leaning over the front of the car looking for loose bolts and rails as you go. Of course, when you find one, you're gone with the car, but it was a little distracting.
I bet. I'm not sure if our risk and benefits team would let us have that job anymore.
Do you wear a helmet?
That's another one we contract out.
No helmets. Right. Over there. Oh, every time you point, though, they say, no, not me. Peggy.
Emily, thanks very much. I'm Peggy Coor and recently retired with the University of Montana. One of the other things our table talked about was whether there would be or could be any cooperation, partnerships, work with the university. You mentioned a number of projects, and I can see all kinds of opportunities. So we're wondering where you are with any kind of conversation with U of M.
Yes, we're working closely with U of M. The College of Technology is very excited to help us. Missoula College, sorry, is very excited to help us, and we are excited for the partnership. They're going to be helping us do a lot of our dirt work, especially on the back half of the grounds. I think, most of you don't know that half of the fairgrounds is completely inaccessible to the public, and so we'll be doing dirt work back there, and we'll be doing to prepare for the rodeo and the livestock arena, and the College of Technology will be doing that work for us. Sorry, Missoula College. We'll be doing that dirt work for us, even though they're not our neighbor anymore. But their machines are still housed on South Avenue, so we're really excited for that partnership. It's really a perfect fit.
Linda.
My name is Linda. I'm a hockey mom, and there's a couple of others in the room that are with us, and so thank you for having hockey at the fairgrounds and considering them in your planning for the future. We spend a lot of time there, and I like it because it's in my neighborhood, and I really appreciate that partnership that you have with hockey and hope that that will continue. And that's all. No question.
We love having hockey there too, and all of the ice sports.
So I'm Mark Bonham with the Territorial Landworks. I'm also president of the Midtown Association. I just want everybody to be aware of the Missoula Melt-Off. It's Friday. It's kind of like a brew fest. It's a family-friendly event at the fairgrounds to benefit the Fairground Foundation.
Yes, it's very cool. It's a melt-off. It's sort of the symbolic handing off of the ice rinks from the ice community to 4-H for the summer. And there'll be free ice skating, and there'll be animals, petting zoo, and a brew fest. We have to be very careful not to say the 4-H brew fest. So it's not a 4-H brew fest. And a brew fest, and there will be, what else, Tom? Knocker balls? Yeah, it's a preview of the fair with like a little, it's a way to bring together all the stakeholders and kick off the summer before the fair, which is crazy, and no one ever sees each other during the fair. So this is a way to really have a good time.
You have a flyer on your table.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
This is a question unrelated to anything our table talked about, but I just wondered about the array of events you might be holding at the rodeo grounds. For instance, the big trucks and the demolition derby, and is that going to continue?
Yes, absolutely. Those are really important stakeholders. Like I say, we do not want to redevelop the fairgrounds and lose any of our stakeholders. Demolition derby, rodeo events, all that stuff, they have a ton of, they have a huge following, maybe not from this room, but from our community, and we want to continue to serve those people.
Tom's got a question.
No, I just got one. It's fine. Thanks, boss. Piggybacking on that question too, I'll just say we've been reworking pretty much every contract associated with the fair and its entertainment, and just it's such a multifaceted event. All that being said, we have charted a course for the fair for at least the next 4 to 5 years, and so my job as the manager of the fair is to ensure that it goes off without a hitch through all the development, and I'm really excited working with Emily on that. I think we're going to have the best fair ever this year, and it's only going to get better after that. Now, my question was actually for the audience. I've been thinking a lot about fair stakeholders lately, and I was just curious if I could have a show of hands. Who here has been to the fair, brought their kids to the fair, hockey moms, been to events at the fairgrounds? Who here has done anything that has to do with the fair? Can I see a raise of hands? Yeah, so that's everybody. And that just shows you that this project is super important for the community, and we need really good feedback from everyone. So we're going to keep, a great feedback loop going, and especially with the free admission, this is a vital piece to the redevelopment too. And if anyone has ideas for sponsorships, come and see me or Emily. And also, we're recruiting a ton of volunteers this year, way more than we ever have, to help us with that cost. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, come and see me. There's my plug.
Thank you. Good. Looking around.
I think that's
All
it.
right. Could that be it? We need an MC to take charge. There you go.
First of all, Emily, thank you very much. It's an excellent presentation. I'd like to remind all of you that our next program will be on Monday, July 10th, and it will be Project Tomorrow, Preventing Suicide. And I'd like just to help us schedule, I'd strongly encourage you to go to cityclubmissoula.com, and you can see our programs that are coming up. You can see our past programs, but most importantly, when you're going to come, it allows you to sign up and let us know that you're going to be here, so I help get our head counts. Thank you for coming. If you, I'll be around here for a little bit if you have questions or want to make any comments, and we appreciate you coming, and we look forward to seeing you in next month. Thank you.